Alabama didn't just pass one wholesaling law, they passed two. And if you wholesale in Alabama, you must comply with both. The first law passed in 2023, the second law passed in 2025 and is effective January 1st, 2026. Together, they completely change how you wholesale in Alabama. So on this video, I'm going to break down these two laws, how they're different, and what you must do right now to stay compliant in Alabama. Coming up.
This video is brought to you by the 100% Funding System, a program where Jerry Norton funds 100% of your deals with his money. To learn more, go to usejerryscash.com.
My name is Jerry Norton. I'm the wholesale industry's leading authority on all things regulation. I maintain a free state-by-state wholesale regulation report. You can download the latest version right now at wholesaleregulations.com. Okay, let's start with Alabama's first attempt to regulate wholesaling in 2023, known as SB 228. First, this law cracks down on mandatory written disclosures. If you enter into a contract to purchase a single-family residential property with the intent to assign it for a fee, you must, 1, disclose in writing to the seller your intent to market your equitable interest. That notice can be in your purchase and sale agreement that you execute with the seller. Now, my contracts have a specific assignment clause that meets this requirement. The second thing you must disclose in writing is with potential buyers that you are selling an equitable interest. That notice can be in your assignment agreement that you execute with the buyer. There is also a specific clause in my assignment agreement that I use with my buyers that they are aware I'm selling my equitable interest and I may not be able to convey title. By the way, I'll give you my exact wholesale contracts for free. To get the free download, go to wholesalercontracts.com. Now, the third disclosure requirement is going to require an extra step and a separate document. If and when you decide to wholesale, you must notify in writing at least 3 business days before the assignment becomes effective. Now, the purpose for this disclosure is to stop wholesalers from assigning contracts without the seller knowing. This law requires sellers have advance notice that a new buyer is stepping in. So again, the law says you must notify the seller at least 3 business days prior to the effective date of the assignment. That means if your assignment agreement becomes effective on Friday, the seller must receive written notice no later than Tuesday. Or let's say that you sign an assignment agreement on Tuesday with a buyer, and then you notify the seller in writing also on Tuesday. That assignment wouldn't actually be effective until Friday. It's not 3 days before closing, it's 3 days before the assignment becomes effective. Now that distinction matters. By the way, if you double close and you do not assign your contract, that specific requirement would not apply, but all the other disclosure requirements still do. Now this may be enough of a hassle for some wholesalers to just double close. By the way, I provide transactional funding for double closes. I even fund the first one for free. To learn more, go to usejerryscash.com. Now, this written 3-day notice wasn't provided by Alabama, as far as I know, so I created my own clean, compliant 3-day assignment notice that I'll give to you for free. It's included with my wholesale regulations report. Again, go to wholesaleregulations.com to get that free report. But let me briefly review what this document says. Notice to seller. Pursuant to Alabama SB 228, this notice is to inform you that the buyer under the above referenced purchase agreement intends to assign their equitable interest in the purchase agreement to another buyer. The assignment will become effective on, fill in the blank. If known at the time of this notice, the assignee's name is, fill in the blank. The original purchase agreement remains in full force and effect. All terms, conditions, and obligations under the purchase agreement remain unchangeable unless otherwise agreed upon in writing. This notice is being provided at least 3 business days prior to the effective date of the assignment, as required by Alabama law. Okay, now I know a lot of wholesalers think they can just ignore these regulations, but that's not smart. You're going to want to take this seriously. Failure to comply can result in a Class C misdemeanor and/or civil liability up to 3 times your assignment fee. That's pretty serious. Alabama SB 228 did one more thing that I want to touch on briefly. It outlawed certain long-term listing style agreements called non-title record agreements for personal services, or NTRAPs for short. These are agreements longer than 1 year, recorded in public records, and binding future owners and creating encumbrances on title. These are now unenforceable. Well, how does that impact filing an affidavit and memorandum, or a memo for short? Well, SB 228 did not ban short-term memorandums that are tied to a legitimate purchase agreement, But here's the important nuance. Alabama is now extremely sensitive to recorded instruments that cloud title. A legitimate memorandum of contract is typically short-term, tied to a valid purchase agreement, filed to protect equitable interest, and released immediately upon termination. However, memorandums can be misused. Problems arise when a memo is filed without a valid enforceable contract, used as leverage to pressure a seller, left on title after cancellation, and used to block a seller from selling to someone else, and structured in a way that resembles a long-term encumbrance. If your memo does that, you could face wrongful cloud of title claims, slander of title claims, civil damages, or scrutiny under the same policy logic that killed N-traps. Now, the legislative message was clear. Alabama does not want recorded documents being used as coercive leverage. If you record a memo, it must be clean, temporary, legitimate, and released immediately if the deal dies. Anything beyond that creates risk. Recording them wrongfully could result in a $10,000 statutory damages, court orders voiding the agreement, and attorney fees. So overall, SB 228, passed in 2023, was very much a disclosure and consumer protection bill. But it did not require a license. It did not redefine wholesaling as a brokerage. That came later with SB 246, which passed into law and became effective January 1, 2026. SB 246 shifts the focus from what must you disclose to are you acting and operating as a broker? This law is enforced through the Alabama Real Estate Commission. And here's the key. If your wholesale activity rises to the level of brokerage, you may now be required to hold a real estate license. This law has three parts. One, it clarifies when repeated wholesale activity may constitute as a broker. It strengthens enforcement authority under Alabama's broker licensing framework. And three, it focuses heavily on marketing conduct, especially marketing properties you don't own. If you are repeatedly marketing contracts, advertising like you own the property, or running dispositions like listings, you are now at a higher risk category. Here's where things get fuzzy. The Alabama REC did not give a specific number of transactions that would constitute getting a license. Instead, they left it flexible, which gives the REC discretion to decide if your activity constitutes acting as a real estate broker. Well, what constitutes acting as a broker? Well, under Alabama's broker statutes, a person is acting as a broker if they sell or offer to sell real estate for another, negotiate real estate transactions for compensation, market property they do not own, and repeatedly engage in these activities for profit. So, SB 246 didn't create a new definition. It clarified that wholesale activity can fall under the existing broker definition when done repeatedly or in a brokerage-like manner. Having said that, here's where you need to be concerned. If you're a high-volume wholesaler doing deals monthly, there's a high chance the REC makes the argument that you are operating as a broker, even though you technically have equitable interest. If your entire business model functions like a brokerage, you're exposed. Now, as a personal guide, I would look at it like this. If you do 1 to 3 deals a year, that's pretty low risk. If you're doing 5 to 10 deals a year, that's a gray zone. And if you're doing, let's say, 10 or more wholesale transactions in a year, then you're probably going to be looked at like acting as a brokerage, and you should go ahead and get your real estate license. Okay, so let's recap. Alabama wholesalers now have a 2-layer compliance system. Layer 1, SB 228, is a disclosure law. You must provide written disclosures before marketing, notify the seller 3 days before assignment, disclose equitable interest to buyers, and avoid N-trap style agreements. Layer 2, SB 246, is a broker law. You must avoid marketing the property as if you own it, clearly market only your contractual interest, and monitor transaction volume. Evaluate whether licensure is appropriate if operating at scale. Now, how serious are these laws? If you ignore SB 228, you face criminal and civil penalties. If you ignore SB 246, you risk being treated as an unlicensed broker. And finally, guys, here's the thing. In wholesale real estate, we're seeing one of two camps. Either it's a disclosure regulation or it's a licensing regulation. Alabama went ahead and did both of those. So you need to make sure that you're staying compliant and you're following the laws if you're going to wholesale in Alabama. Again, to get my full state-by-state wholesale regulation breakdown, you can download it for free at wholesaleregulations.com, and I'll see you on the next video.